credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena.
All right. Welcome to Field Notes with Rashad podcast. I am here with the Missouri Bear Foundation. I have Roger Cole and Levi Eubanks, a couple of our board members here. And I really appreciate you guys coming on the podcast today. Reached out to Caleb, I believe, who's running your social media. And
Yes.
We're both actually Missouri Backcountry Hunters and Angler
Nice.
committee members. So we were able to connect over that as well. And I've been following you guys for a little bit on Instagram and Facebook and really like the work that you're doing. So this podcast feels very natural. I'm really glad to have you guys here.
Thank
So just to kind of get us started here, here's a simple question. What is the Missouri Bear Foundation?
Go for it. Okay. Well, the Missouri Bear Foundation is a chapter of the American Bear Foundation, which started out in Wyoming. It was the Western Bear Foundation maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and then they decided to expand to different states. So the American Bear Foundation, they changed their name to the American Bear Foundation, and we reached out to them a couple of years ago about getting a chapter in Missouri. And just to make it short, we call ourselves the Missouri Bear Foundation, but we're actually a chapter of the American Bear Foundation. So we're the first chapter in the Midwest. So.
And I know, go ahead, Levi.
Well, actually, there's a few things that are kind of core tenets of what attracted me to the group, which was, first and foremost, it's pro bear in every way, which is how can we advocate for bears in Missouri? How can we raise awareness for bears in Missouri? How can we help the habitat for bears in Missouri? How can we help pursue the game and the resource of bears for Missourians and that population, combined with making it a popular thing, I think was a really core tenet as well.
And I think it's worth noting here that it's not just bear hunting, it's bear conservation, bear habitat, bear everything.
Yeah, big time.
Education, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and bear hunting in and of itself is bear conservation. I think that's important to point out too. Even simple statistics that you can look up, like how many bear human conflicts there were in Missouri per year a few years ago before there was a bear season. It was I'm gonna have to be fact checked on this. I'll Google it here in a second. It was ballpark 140, 150 bear human conflicts every year reported. Bear season started in 2021. In 2022, bear human conflicts dropped to about a third of that, and it's been sustained at about a third of that throughout. So bears get a little bit of hunting pressure, and it is a little bit here so far. And they immediately figure out, oh, humans are bad, stay away from humans. It actually saves more bears than have actually been harvested in Missouri alone, just by that fact, staying away from humans.
Yeah, and I've heard multiple accounts of these sort of predator species that when they stop becoming afraid of humans and don't see them as a threat, it really becomes a problem. I know California's had some tremendous problems with mountain lions and their bears, as well. They're not scared of people. And I actually heard on the Meat Eater podcast, they were saying that they were playing the Meat Eater podcast, doing these like mountain lion sort of runs to kind of introduce them to more human pressure in this really interesting way. So even something as simple as that.
Playing the podcast to the mountain lions?
Essentially, as they're walking through, so they're recognizing human voices, and then they were collared mountain lions, right?
Sounds like they're desperate for listeners.
Yeah, I think Meat Eater really could use the field notes bump from us. Well, so you were just telling me before we started here, you have 6 members now on your board. That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And Roger, you're the president. Did you start this chapter?
Yeah. Right now we got about over 40 members. We're getting close to 50. What happened was in late 2023, I reached out to Joe from the American Bear Foundation and asked about possibly getting a chapter started in Missouri. what I need to do. And he told me you need about 5 or 6 guys that are interested in starting a chapter, getting a charter, becoming officers, getting a board, all that stuff together. So I didn't know. I know some close friends, none of them were really interested. So what I did was reach out on Facebook on Missouri Bear pages, different ones on the hunting pages, and just putting feelers out there. And lucky I was able to find 5 or 6 guys. And in March, there's I think 6 of us that showed up in Rolla. We had a meeting there in Rolla, hashed it out, talked the stuff out, and got our charter started. We basically kind of copied Virginia, which is the first chapter in the East Coast, looked at their stuff, changed a few things about the charter, and then we sent our charter and information to the American Bear Foundation board, and they approved us in April of 24. So, and then we got our paperwork done in Missouri and all that, or 501c and all that, and became the chapter. And I think May 1st, something like that. I think it was the first that we were the chapter. It was May 1st in Missouri. So
that's great. Yeah. And I'm a part of that Missouri Black Bear Facebook group as well. I was just looking at it, 6.6 thousand members. So there's definitely interest for black bear in Missouri. And so what's your history like with black bears, Roger, and what inspired you to kind of start the chapter?
Well, the biggest thing, I've always liked hunting, fishing, and stuff like that. Never had an opportunity to hunt bears. But the thing really got me interested in bears was in 2009. I got the first bear on camera, on my game camera down on my parents' farm. And that's when they were kind of like, there's not very many bears in Missouri. So, of course, you call it in on the conservation line and tell them, and different, they want, if you sometimes to put out traps and stuff like that. In fact, the next year, the conservation put a trap on my parents' neighbor's property, and they trapped a 400-pound bear, male. And it was one of the studies that University of Missouri and Mississippi State was doing for bears in Missouri. It was some of the first testing, and they did a DNA test and samples and collared bears. So they did that in 2010, and then 2011 they caught another smaller bear on my parents' neighbor's property. It was about a 150-pound male bear. So, but they were really looking for females, which they caught a few of them in the area. So just getting studies on the DNA and all that. So it was pretty interesting in that. And of course, my son was only like 10 years old, and he was down during the summer, so he got to see a bear and touch the bear while I was knocked out, of course. And so my parents got pictures with it. So I was unlucky, didn't get down there for that. And I was always hoping someday that Missouri would have a bear season. And we've had one the last 5 years, and like it's a draw. It's luck of the draw, and unfortunately, I'm kind of unlucky. I've been 0 for 5. Hopefully, this year there's more tags, and maybe I'll get an opportunity. But even if I get drawn, the opportunity just to go out there and hunt, I don't know. They get up the quota to 60 bears. Doesn't mean I'm going to get a bear. I mean, doesn't mean automatically you're going to get a bear. So the opportunity to hunt bears in Missouri is something I'm looking forward to hopefully someday doing. So,
yeah. The draw system, the way it is, for me, I actually really enjoy a random draw. I think preference points and weighted systems can get just so complicated for your average hunter. And, some states like Nevada, everything's a draw and totally random. Even as far as like, I think their sheep tags are like that too, which, sheep tags are coveted everywhere. It's funny. Some guys have been applying since the very first time that it opened 5 years now. And they'll say, oh, I apply for the bear, I apply for the elk every year. Essentially just my way of giving MDC another $20 or whatever, right? Yeah. Well, I applied for the first time last year and drew. And so I got super lucky first time. And it ended up being a good season, had some pretty close encounters. I wasn't able to seal the deal, unfortunately. And Levi, I know that you were successful this past year, and I want to get to that eventually. But I have a couple more questions here, kind of just regarding the foundation before we get to some fun stories, if you guys are okay with that.
Totally.
Levi, we were saying that you were one of the newer members here. And so as a new member, I can relate with being a newer member to backcountry hunters and anglers, in that it helps. helps really drive the vision and the mission forward. So like with the Missouri chapter, and being a part of the bigger American Bear chapter, what do you guys see as the vision and the mission in the next 5 years even?
I think for Missouri, big time, it's awareness. A lot of people don't even know that we have bears. A lot of people don't know that we have a bear season. It was a surprise to almost anybody I told that I was going bear hunting last October. You pull up to a piece of public land and somebody would say, "Oh, you're going after some whitetail?" It's like, it's not even a question that you're going after a bear. It's like, what? So, number one is that. And then Missouri MDC is really big right now on I know they have their Bear Aware program, and that's kind of the same goal. Let's tell people about bears, about interacting with bears, what we need to watch for, being now a state with an increasing bear population. So that's thing one. And I think educating people on the hunting heritage of bears, understanding that that's a highly valuable natural resource with a ton of meat and fat that you can use for everything. Leather. I mean, it has a resource rich animal that I think people aren't aware. They think that bear hunting is just and I say they, being one who had my picture posted by the Department of Conservation and then immediately slammed by everybody on the internet for being a trophy hunter. You shouldn't shoot something you're not going to eat. I was reading it while I was taking a big bite of bear, surprised at the outrage. But I think that's a big part of the mission, is like educating people on, these are here to stay. Hopefully they're here to grow and not cohabitate in a way where we interact with them so much, but cohabitate in a way where we have a respectful distance and then an understanding of what it is as a resource to the people of this state as well.
Roger, do you have anything you want to add to that vision or mission?
Yeah, like I said, our chapter, we get all kinds of different projects we like to do. And like, for example, this year we're raising money for the Bear Wise program that he mentioned, to donate some of that towards Missouri Conservation, to go to schools and educate kids about bears and stuff like that. So that's one of our goals this year. One of our long-term goals is possibly in helping bear habitat, is we're in the beginning stages with the Ozarks Chinkapin Foundation, which is a chestnut tree that was originally in Arkansas and Missouri. And we like to get that reestablished back into Missouri. 300 years ago, when bears, the population was, when you had market hunting and all that, that food source was there, and it's better than the white oak, which is acorn right now, which is their primary source in the fall. But a chestnut is 4 times more protein than a acorn or white oak acorn. So hopefully we can get that tree back there. We lost 100 years ago from the Chinese blight. So, I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. It's something, hopefully our grandkids and their kids maybe enjoy the benefit of that. And hopefully we get that tree reestablished back in the Ozarks and Mark Twain and conservation areas. That will help the bear population, along with turkeys, deer, and everything else that would benefit from that kind of another food source that's been gone for over 100 years or more.
That's really fascinating. I was unaware of that sort of chestnut and that the protein content in that I know that there's a lot of efforts for different restoration in the Mark Twain. It's a 1 million acres, which to one guy might seem like a lot, but there's the North Tip. You have guys from St. Louis coming down, and I'm down here in South Missouri, and I got boots all over that place, and we all do. And so 1 million acres gets split up pretty quickly with only so many trailheads, and so. I know that the glades are a big issue over there right now, and this is really cool. I'm gonna have to do some more research on this chestnut deal. I think that's really fascinating.
Oh, Roger, I think you should even talk about how specific they're getting about the sourcing of the tree and the seeds and how many get allocated. It's really neat.
Yeah, like if you're a member of the chapter, you get 5 seeds. In fact, I got 5 seeds last December. All 5 germinated. Hopefully they survive. Like I said, I'm hoping maybe 3 of them get up. It takes about 3 years. They have to survive 3 years because deer eat them, the squirrels eat them, everything else, even the sapling. They eat the bark, everything, the root and everything. So it's very beneficial. Like I said, it's a great project long term. It's not something we're going to do overnight. So, this is something we can, after I'm long gone, hopefully my kids and other people and our kids and grandkids can continue the process of getting them back in the Ozarks. So,
And so, are these true heirloom Missouri, Arkansas chestnut genetics?
yes, they took certain trees that survived the blight and kind of crossed them and found them and crossed them again. And like I said, there's only so many of them. They give out like 5 seeds to so many members. Like it's over 1,000 members. So, and hopefully the members are planting in places that are property, hunting properties and stuff like that. But I noticed last year in the Missouri Conservationist magazine, that the nursery, the Missouri Conservation Nursery, is going to start carrying them. So eventually, Missouri residents can buy those chestnuts and plant them on our property and stuff like that. And one thing we would like to do, and maybe as a chapter, is buy some of those seeds and plant them in certain locations, conservation areas, parks. Maybe there's a person with a lot of property that would let us plant it there, close to Mark Twain, or eventually on Mark Twain if we can get approval for that, something like that, possibly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get started on federal national forest regulations. Like, I got all sorts of gripes with how some of our national parks or forests are being managed, but I feel like that's like such a, in 50 years time, that'll be like such a high value sort of like insider hunting tactic. Because if you're like, I know that there's these chestnuts here, and here, that's 4 times more protein content than a white oak. If you could target those, and you could just have a field day out there on everything, it sounds like.
And what I understand from these chickapin chestnuts, they're very sweet, so they're going to taste better. The other thing with a chestnut is they produce nuts every year, unlike a white oak. So that's a food source that you're going to have year after year. So this year, if you're bear hunting, last year you scouted and this white oak had a bunch of acorns. Most likely, it's not going to have acorns this year. So that bear knows that he's not going to be in that area or whatever. So they know when the trees, they search around, and the bears know what trees will have nuts on them in October, and that's where they're going to go to. So a tree that's always having nuts, that's going to be a beneficial on your property, especially if you want to bear hunt.
Yeah. The past couple years have been a pretty good mass crop in Missouri, South Missouri. And so we're overdue for maybe a little dip. And it's interesting because if you look at mass crop volume versus hunter success, there is a direct correlation of the more mass we have, the lower the hunter success rate is, which makes sense, right? If deer can feed everywhere, you're going to have a hard time concentrating them in one particular feeding source. Same with bears, same with, everything that I've seen, acorns and turkey, turkey gut, squirrel. I mean, everything.
Oh yeah.
Levi, go ahead.
They say a black bear in a high mast crop environment can wake up in the morning, consume 20,000 calories of acorns, and then bed down and move in a 40-yard square and not have to go anywhere else. Like, that's enough. So you're right. The correlation of them being on the move or not is they're just calories in, calories out. How many calories can I pack in? How few can I burn? They're not going to move at all if there's just a pile of acorns on the ground.
Yeah. Maybe to get something to drink. That's about it.
Yeah. You gotta go find them.
Yeah.
Well, and I was thinking about Levi. You had mentioned the all of the uses for black bear that historically is very, very significant. Now, obviously, I think to the non-initiated, everybody thinks bearskin rug or the shoulder mount, which is great. It'd be great to have one of them. I don't necessarily need, a bunch of bear rugs all over my house necessarily. But I'm always reminded of the story of the early pioneers, the Daniel Boones and Davy Crockett's of the world. These guys who were expanding westward, many written accounts say they favored the bear over pretty much everything else on the landscape. And we have to remember, at that time, you had elk everywhere, white-tailed deer, very, very robust populations as well. And as a preferred food source, it was always the bear.
Yep. Kill the deer, let them skin them, and let the body lay on the ground, and shoot a bear for the meat.
Yeah.
The meat and the fat.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, you know, I wasn't successful last year, unfortunately, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. And the bear grease, did you make any bear grease with yours?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I took, as an old sow, I took 40 pounds of fat off of her and of just pure fat, diced it up, froze it, ground it, and yeah, rendered all that grease. My Christmas gifts to family were beard oil made of bear and some balms and lotions and some cooking oil and all sorts of stuff that I made out of it. It's pretty amazing stuff. Cookies made with bear fat. There's
Nice.
all sorts of stuff.
I was at I back when I lived in Oregon, there was this bar. Somebody had killed a bear that year, and they were making bear claw donuts with bear fat.
Oh, nice.
So that was actually the first time I ever had any bear related food product. It was a bear claw cooked in that bear grease. Yeah. Just some straight up bear claw, truly. Well, as we know, the current state of black bear in Missouri is on the rise. It's definitely coming up. We're seeing population growth. We're seeing hunting opportunities expand. One of the questions that I always kind of have with this is how much of the development of North Arkansas is responsible for that northern expansion of that bear range?
You mean pushing them from what's being developed? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the growth, I think we'd have to maybe talk to some MDC people about what percent of the growth is what. Because if it's expansion and pushing, or if it's just population growth. Because I know right now, MDC says that the bear population is growing at 9% a year. I'd be surprised if 9% was coming from Arkansas, or if it was this population expanding, that population expanding, and that is also responsible for the push. It can't be nothing. You're right. But yeah. I mean, there's a lot of bears here going pretty far north, you know, we had one in Kansas City a few months ago.
No kidding.
Yeah. Walking around the street. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. So I don't know how much of it's development or how much of it's actual population growth, but I know the growth is encouraging. And I think Arkansas, their population's growing too. So, yeah, I think net positive across the board.
And so what do you guys think about the current bear season? Do you think that it's a good season? Do you think there's room for improvement still? You know, you guys are got, you know, a closer thumb on the pulse. So what are your thoughts there?
Well, I think it's a little late in the season, but I mean, right now with the Corps of Conservation, it's the opportunity to hunt the bears in Missouri. It's not to control the population yet.
Right.
So I know a lot of people would like to see bait eventually.
Yeah. I
think we're 5 to 10 years down the road. We might see that. I don't see that happening yet. And if we do that, it'd be like they did in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's kind of look like us. At first they didn't allow baiting, and then they allowed baiting on private land. I think we would do that eventually. But even if you allowed baiting on private land here in Missouri in that time frame in October, late October, the bear's going to be on you're wasting your bait. I think it had to be earlier. Like Arkansas has theirs at like the end of September, in the first week of October. I think we would have to move it up possibly if you want to do baiting, because once the hard mass acorns are on the ground and ready to go, the bears are going to be there. They prefer that source over donuts, whatever you can put, corn, whatever else you can put out, trail mix, whatever, dog food.
Yeah, throw a beaver carcass in there. You know,
whatever you plan on putting out there. Yes, they might come in there, but sometimes it'd be at night and stuff like that. So I think eventually it will be allowed baiting. I think we will, but I think, like I said, we're 5 or 10 years down the road. Like I said, as American Bear Foundation, we support all bear hunting. So baiting, you know, spot and stalk. Virginia is a very big hound state. I would not be opposed for that. I know some people in Missouri would, but like I said, I don't know if it ever happened or not, but yeah, I wouldn't be against it. So, I mean, but I think we'll see baiting before we ever see hounds.
Yeah.
But Missouri has a good raccoon hound hunting tradition, and it's still going on. So I think it could possibly redo the bear hunting hounds and stuff. I know Michigan and Wisconsin does, but Minnesota doesn't. Big bear state, but they don't allow hounds. So Tennessee does, certain states do, West Virginia does. we have a tradition of houndsmen, but I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen in my lifetime. We'll see. So, but as a chapter, we would be favor any kind of bear hunting. So baiting, hounds, but yeah.
I think you nailed it with where we're at, Roger, which is right now we have a limited bear season that's an opportunity to hunt. It's not a quota hunt. There's a big difference. There's a lot of people mentioning, well, the quota is at 20 bears for zone. Was like, well, it's not a quota. That's kind of important to specify, because MC's not saying they want, last year it was 40. They're not saying they want 40 bears removed necessarily. They're saying we would cap it at that. So I don't know that I don't know that it'll change at all until it's more of a quota situation than a limit. Because if you don't want more bears harvested necessarily, then I don't think you make it easier. But Roger, your timeline's probably somewhere around exactly what it should be. 10 years from now, if we keep that growth rate of 9%, what would that would double it in 7-8 years. 8 years probably would take to double the population, and then you're probably looking at wanting to remove some bears.
And it really seems like, I think you said it's more of like an awareness campaign right now with these initial types of deals. And from, correct me if I'm wrong, but by all measurable accounts, well, I could be wrong here. No, I guess here's the question. Is that campaign being received well? I'm reminded of Florida, and you've seen the tremendous amount of backlash that Florida received for introducing that. So much so that you had anti-hunters buying hunting license, applying for those bear tags to try and, so they could draw the tag. Yeah. Which ironically, from what I heard, they had to do a hunter education, a bear education, all this stuff. And it's through that process, I'm like, come on, you still can't have this whole anti-hunting sentiment after. Because Levi, if you drew your bear tag, you did the black bear seminar that the NBC put out. I found that to be incredibly informational and really, really well put together. And just educational. There's so much misinformation around it. So the question is this awareness campaign being received well, or do you think that the general public of Missouri is still
I don't think we're Florida bad, but I mean, I'll tell you the post of even like my picture with a bear, it was the kind of grip and grin picture that nobody wants to see if you're not a fan of that animal being hunted. And man, you could tell how uneducated the general public was about that just by who follows their social and who was outraged by it. It's like, well, if you're following MDC, you're probably an outdoors person in some way or another. You're interested, at least, in conservation. So even that crowd having such a visceral reaction is kind of interesting to hear. In the Florida thing, it's so funny to not think that that's going to backfire. What does that tell the state? That they sold how many drawn tags, and then the harvest number is super low? Great, they're just going to up the number of tags. Like that over time doesn't seem to play out well for the advocates, but also great. Send their donation to the Department of Conservation with their ticket purchase for the lottery. Great.
Well, I really liked it because it seemed like for the first time in, as I can remember, these anti-hunters actually were able to put their money where their mouth is. Like if you like conservation and you like seeing white-tailed deer, you like seeing bears, you like seeing turkey, you like seeing whatever, you should be thanking a hunter because of the Pittman Robertson, every firearm, every piece of ammunition. I would like First Light Clothing. They donate a lot of stuff to conservation and camo. It's like we wouldn't have these robust populations if it weren't for hunters, and we gladly flip the bill all day. Yeah, you could raise the price tags on things for me, no problem. You want some application fees? Here you go. Because you gather up that large pool of money, that means more public land, more conservation areas, and all good things. Now, if you're just your average Joe who likes seeing white-tailed deer on the side of the road, when is the last time the conservation department got any money from you whatsoever? Now, in the great state of Missouri, we do have that little bit of sales tax where everybody kind of chips in a little bit. But if, you're pitching in $20 a year and guys like us are, maybe at a couple $100 a year, thank a hunter if you like seeing wild animals on the landscape, And so this was Florida's opportunity to let these anti-hunters put their money where their mouth is, which I was really happy to see.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that at all. I mean, if you want to protest it, go for it. And if your way of protesting is donating money to the program, go for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so with the Missouri population growing, how do you guys feel like it compares to Arkansas's bear regulations and Oklahoma's bear regulations? You know, a couple of our neighboring states, tags are readily available in both of those states for residents and non-residents. Do you think that's the type of thing we could ever reach, or do you think Missouri is always just going to kind of be a resident-only thing, always a draw? Where do you think it might be going from the MDC perspective, and where would you guys like to see it go?
I think we're doing great right now, just Missouri residents only. The reason I say that is to give Missouri residents the opportunity to hunt bears, to learn to bear hunt. Arkansas has been bear hunting for almost 50 years. You get some of those hunters up here, they're experienced more so than some of our Missouri hunters. So, I mean, I think eventually we might open it up once the population's big enough. But right now, I'm all for just Missouri residents, you know, for time being. It gives opportunity for us to get our feet wet into the bear hunting and hopefully grow it. That's, you know, right now we know there's at least 6,000 people applying for bear tags almost every year in Missouri. So there's that many people. I don't know how many will apply this coming May. Maybe we might see 7,000, 8,000, being more opportunity, being 2,000 tags now. But I think we have the potential to eventually do that. So,
yeah. No, absolutely. And, you know, we look at those other, like, I know that bears in the Ouachita Mountains, Arkansas and Oklahoma side, you know, there is a lot of human interaction occasionally for people who are, you know, willing to go deep into those mountains. It's like, if you want to go find a bear in those areas, it's definitely possible. Whereas in Missouri, you know, it's still like, I had probably 5 cameras in the Mark Twain and I had bears on 2 of them. Right. So it's like, oh, hey, this is great. 2 totally different parts of the mountain, 2, you know, different bears. But, you know, I was talking to a lot of people who also run cameras out there and they're like, man, I haven't seen a bear out here ever. But then you get down into some of these towns and counties like Christian County, and you talk to some locals and they're like, oh, yeah, it's normal down there now, which is great. Yeah. So that means, you know, there is some awareness in those smaller parts. Now, you talk to somebody in St. Louis or maybe even Kansas City, it might be totally foreign still. Yeah. But, you know, one question I had for you, Levi, is, you know, as we kind of move towards like hunting specific and tactics, you know, one, I'd love to hear your story here and kind of how you were able to find your bear and ultimately, you know, seal the deal.
Yeah. Well, I drew the tag at the end of June, beginning July last year, and was totally surprised because that was again my annual contribution. I never planned on anything. Got that letter and I was like, oh yeah, I applied for this. That's awesome. And then, you know, I really got to looking at what's my actual opportunity here. What does it take to get a bear in Missouri, and started trying to look that up. There's just nothing out there. It's a new enough season in general, and there's not a lot of resources on Missouri bear hunting. So that's one of the reasons I found the Bear Foundation, was just like found some post or something on Facebook that was like, oh, there's something, and went there and like, oh, here's some people talking about bears. Like, yeah. It's pretty tough to find. So I Googled everything I could, even looked at areas like how to spot and stalk public land bears in anywhere that was topographically similar to the Ozarks. I was even trying to look at that. Like, let me look at the Smokies. Let me look at, you know, how do people do this? And then it was just boots on the ground. Everything I read and watched and listened to was saying, you're going to have to cover a lot of miles. So I started, I started going down in July. Every time I had a day and a half break in my schedule, I'd get down there and hike for a day or half a day, spend the night and do it again the next morning, and then get back out of there. I did that a total of 10 nights doing that between July and the season. And then during bear season, I had, you know, my Onyx was the Unit 1 in Missouri, just speckled with dots, where I had hiked a lot and tried to find, bear scat everywhere. and scratches and anything I could mark, which was again, like I'm a turkey hunter and a deer hunter. And at first I started walking around and was, seeing turkey sign, deer sign, turkey sign, deer sign, and just everywhere that I see, because my eyes are trained to do it. And like Roger said, just learning how to bear hunt, my eyes were not tuned into that. It took a while of training for what to look for and how to look for it. And it's kind of like, you start driving a Tacoma and then you see Tacomas everywhere. You start looking at whatever, that phenomenon that happened. It clicked at some point where I started walking and I was like, bear sign, bear sign. Okay, now I see what it is. I was blind to it before that. So that was a big piece of it. Is just training my brain and eyes how to see bear sign. Then during season, it was, I had 2 4-night stints that I could be out in National Forest. And I was going to do those. I was actually going to do 10 in a row, and there was a really rainy couple of days that was kind of pointless to be there. So I split it up. The very first opening day of bear season was one of my very best friend's weddings, and I was the best man in it. And I said, man, I told my wife, I was like, he has a higher statistical likelihood of getting married again than I do of drawing this tag again. So I stuck it out and went to the wedding, but I was thinking about bears the whole time and got immediately out into the Ozarks. And all of the sign that I had marked in my Onyx from, July through September looked the exact same. The scat that I saw was just older scat. The scratches that I saw were just more faded. Like everything that I had marked was not fresh sign. It was fresh when I found it, and then no bear had been back by. So that let me know I'm in the areas where bears will be, but they're just not in the spots that I had marked. And I felt like I was, I don't know, following them a month behind schedule. It was crazy. And then I found a guy named Austin Ball, who's a taxidermist in Cassville. He had a YouTube short of himself doing some bear scouting that I came across. And I just messaged him on YouTube and was like, hey, I'm also bear scouting right now. Like I'm out here getting after it. Where are you at? Have you seen anything? And he was like, yeah, I see there's bear sign all over. I have bears on camera. I have bears. Like, oh, sweet. And he was like, hey, there's more ground than I can cover if you want to come hunt out here. And so, that was super generous. So I took him up on it, drove out there and hunted in his area for a while. And we just, had a bear camp, which was cool to say, and then split up and went opposite directions during the day. I hunted with him a few days, didn't find anything. And then like you, I had cameras out all over Mark Twain. And so I was like, well, my last day's tomorrow. I better drive and get my last camera back out of the woods. So I drove back over to where I had started the season, and I was staring at my phone. It was the last evening that I could hunt. And then I had a little bit of time in the morning, and that was it for me. And there was one area I had not revisited since season, but it was because the only thing I found was a scratch mark on a tree. It was by a little pond that I thought would be a good spot for a wallow. And it was by a few-year-old clear cut that I thought would be a good spot for them digging around, getting bugs and stuff. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just go check out that area. And I drove up. It was, I don't know, 3:30 p.m., something like that. A storm was coming in. It was going to be there right around the same time as dark. The temperature was dropping, and I thought, all right, I don't have long before this season's over. But I pulled up, and somebody was getting in their truck. And again, this is late October. So I said, were you deer hunting in there? And he goes, no, I was actually looking for a buddy's deer who'd shot one yesterday, and they hadn't found it yet. And I was like, oh, okay. And he said, are you getting after deer? I said, no, I'm trying to find some bears. And he just goes, what does that mean? And he goes, well, there's bears in there. And I was like, well, I have a spot marked. And I pulled up my Onyx, and I said, I marked a scratch here. I said, do you know, like, where are you talking about? And he was like, no, like over that hill, I saw bears. And I was like, I said, you saw bears, plural? He goes, yeah. And I said, oh, that's probably a sow and 2 cubs. Like, that's not huntable. I said, but that's super cool that you saw him. I hadn't seen a bear yet. So I was like, well, I'll just go in there anyway. And I walked the direction he pointed, and within 50 yards of the truck, saw the sow and 2 cubs.
Oh, wow.
And it was awesome. I just heard a big commotion at first. It was one of the cubs like tearing through the underbrush, and they climbed up on a tree 4 or 5 feet high and looked back at me. And I was like, oh, there's the bear. And it jumped down, and they ran off and circled around downwind of me. And when they got downwind, they were probably, I don't know, 75 yards away. They caught my wind and they took off straight downwind of me. Kept running away. That was west then. And I texted my wife and I was like, mission success. Like, I've been out here, slept 18 nights in the forest trying to find these things. And I saw a bear, saw a sound, 2 cubs. I feel like I can check the box. This was a huge success. Awesome season. And I had about an hour before that storm and dark came. So I decided they ran downwind of me. I just turned into the wind and started walking into the wind on about their elevation. And I saw more bear sign there than I saw anywhere else combined. I just figured it was the sow and 2 cubs that had, must den around there. But it was like bear scat, torn up plug, bear scat, torn up plug, scratch up tree. What is just wallows to just so much sign. And I just kept walking, and within, I don't know, half an hour, maybe a little less than a mile, it wasn't too thick in there, I bent down and was taking a picture of bear scat on the ground. And I heard like a hoof, hoof, up, and I looked up, and there was a lone bear coming up the edge of this ridge, probably 100 yards from me, just walking straight up. So I slung my rifle off, and there was trees. I could see the bear moving behind it, and then a little gap, and then thick brush that the bear could be in until it was downwind of me. So I had a really short window. So within about 5 seconds of seeing it, had my rifle up, and then had about a 1 second shot window, and shot as fast. And just when I shot fast, I just instinctually put it right where you'd put it on a deer, just because that's where, like, fast shot, boom. And it felt too far forward for the bear. It knocked the bear over. I knew I made contact. It roared. It ran down the draw, and I could hear brush crunching and all sorts of noise. So I knew it was a wounded bear, at least. But I couldn't help shaking the feeling that I'd shot too far forward, and I didn't know, what that meant. I started hearing thunder, like the storm was here, dark was coming. I was like, okay. So I kind of went up the ridge a little bit to give it a little bit of time. And I got a 1 bar of service and called my wife, told her I shot a bear. And she's like, you got a bear? I said, I shot a bear. It doesn't mean I got a bear. So I was like, I hope I got a bear. I was like, love you. I'm going to go down in this draw with presumably a wounded bear, and it's getting dark. See ya. She's like, all right. So I went down there, and I found 1 spot of blood right where I shot it. Right where I hit it, like impact, and 0 other blood at all. But I watched it run down the straw, so I knew its exact path, and the leaves were all messed up, and I just followed exactly where it went till I got to the bottom. It really started getting dark then. I reached for my headlamp, which fell out of that unzipped pocket, and I was like, oh no. So I was in the bottom of this draw, wounded bear down here, dark was I was like, okay. So I just had my cell phone light. I was like, I gotta find this bear like now. So I just started like grid searching with my eyes, across everything. And I had walked about 15 or 20 yards past the bear, and I turned around and saw the bear at the same time it saw me. Its head lifted up. I did the same thing, just immediate boom, shot right away. And later, well, I can even show you. Later, I saw those 2 shots were about this far apart, and they were right in the vitals. It was both of them were fine and lethal shots. But I was just freaked out because it felt, too far forward, like a deer shot. And the Austin Ball, that taxidermist out of Cassville, I texted him that I got one, and he texted he was on his way. And I was like, holy cow, that's awesome. So he drove hours in the storm to get to me, which was so nice. I had gone up and, changed clothes and got rain gear on and stuff because it was downpouring then. He met me at my truck and we hiked out to it. I pulled the trigger at 4:30. By the time we had all the meat, the skin, the fat, everything packed up and packed out and loaded, it was 3 a.m. by the time we were done. It was a lot of work. But man, he saved me coming out and doing that. Like I owe him a lot for that. Which, nobody better to skin a bear with than a taxidermist. Where I was
That's what I was going to say.
Stop. You want to cut it like this? And they'd be like, oh, thank you. That was super nice. Anyway, I got a good friend out of it in him, and I got an experience I'll never forget. So much time out in the woods. I fell in love with just the Ozarks as a whole, and Mark Twain as a place anybody can go. And just, if you want some silence, you want some rejuvenation in nature, like that's an amazing resource we have here at our fingertips that I think gets too overlooked for what it is. It's incredible. Just, you mentioned earlier, over 1 million acres of, I think we have 1.3 of Mark Twain National Forest in Missouri. It's an incredible place. And yeah, that was kind of that whole journey. Pretty, it's something I'll never forget.
Yeah, no, congratulations. That's an amazing hunt. And gosh, there's so much for me to unpack there, with that storm rolling in and everything. Man. Really made you work for that one. There was no easy road on that. That's an incredible one. And that's kind of one of the things about having a more restricted season, kind of like it is that it makes the hunt itself so much more sacred when access is limited.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so special, and man, I'm truly jealous
for deer. If you got the opportunity every year, you're not going to. That's something about it too. The rarity makes it special, and that lends itself to an extra gear of effort that, I told my wife, I was like, I might not draw this again. So I'm going to treat it like it's once in a lifetime. And, she was like, go for it. But we had a newborn then, he's a year old now, but I was like, are you serious? And she was like, yeah, go for it. And, I had a 6-year-old and a newborn. It was like, it's crazy. But I was in the woods, like I said, 18 nights total. That's a ton for her to take on. And it's just, I don't treat any other hunting season that way. Yeah. So I agree with you, Rashad. That's a big part of it.
It's so important to have a supportive partner like that. If you're passionate about hunting like we are, it's a lot, for me, just even this past week, I've been up at, 4:30 and out the door trying to kill turkeys. And she's like, you didn't make coffee. I'm like, I had to go,
Yeah. So, it's funny when it's too early for coffee.
Yeah. Like, it's going to be cold by the time you get up. You're not going to want it anyways.
Yeah.
Oh man. And so you said your shot was kind of more tucked in on the shoulder, like it would be a deer. Clay Newcomb has famously said the center of the center.
Middle of the middle and forward just a little.
Middle of the middle and forward just a little. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But you were kind of tucked up by the shoulder.
Yeah.
And so you were still lungs, heart.
Yep. Here, let me actually grab the bear here. We just got this back not long ago. Got the tanned hide. Here's the bear. I didn't even tell you a cool thing about this bear. This bear is, let me turn off the blur here. This bear was a super old sow. I don't know if you can see in the camera. She's pretty red actually in some of this fur, which is kind of cool. Not quite color face, but a little bit of red in the black. But her mouth was so her teeth were so degraded that she had no bottom canines, almost no teeth on the bottom at all. No. Had the top canines were split and worn down to nothing. There's a cavity I could put my pinky in. Just terrible condition mouth. She had 3 legs. She was missing her back right foot from the ankle down. I didn't even know that until I recovered her because she just walked normal. But 3-legged, so I named her Peggy. She got the peg leg. Yeah, the agents I was talking to said that they had been trapping bears and working on the bear program in Missouri for the last almost 20 years, and said that they think by far this will be the oldest bear on record in Missouri that they've trapped or even seen, just based on the condition of her mouth. So we'll find out when the tooth gets dated. I don't have that yet because you do have, you got to send that in. But yeah, super old sow. She was about 300 pounds. Yeah, just the exact right bear. The Department of Conservation said this bear was done, producing more cubs. That she was definitely on. The agent I talked to said that he thinks this would have been her last winter anyway, or maybe next to last. And he's like, that's a lot easier way to go down than the way it would have. Yeah. So he was like, that was a perfect harvest for what MDC wanted people to get.
Well, and that's the best case scenario too. Take an old mature animal off the landscape. It's and if it was a young juvenile and it was your only opportunity, it's like, oh, hey, it is what it is,
Yeah. Not saying I sat there and judged it.
Yeah.
For sure.
That is awesome. So one question that I kind of have in regards to preparation of the meat, it uses every part of the buffalo. So I like to say, what's been your kind of favorite dish that you've made with that bear so far?
Yeah, I've done a lot. I've been repeating, going back to this crock pot roast that I've been doing. I did this red wine reduction kind of gravy at the end of it, and I've just been slow cooking it until it's fall apart. And man, the meat's got this deep. I mean, if you're used to elk meat, it's kind of like this deep purple, really beautiful meat, and it's a sweet. It's like a sweet beef is the best way to describe it. Sweeter than beef, but very similar to beef. And man, we've enjoyed it. I've even done steaks. Let me scare people. I've done steaks, medium rare steaks, and I trichinosis. I know the deal. So I've sous vide them.
Yep.
Because it's the temperature and time combination, not just temperature. Yep. So you can leave them like medium rare and cook it for hours. And then, a lot of
people don't realize that. I think it's just you have to reach an internal temperature, but it's you can hold something at a temperature for longer periods of time and get the same level of pasteurization, sanitization, sterilization, and
So that's something people don't realize with bear meat too. Is you can eat it medium rare if you want. Just got to cook it for more time at the lower temperature. And I've done that. I've done pulled on the smoker. I've done a lot of things with it. We're almost out of bear meat, which is crazy to say.
Yeah.
We're about out of it. My 6-year-old said that bear, after his second meal, he was like, bear's my favorite food now. I was like, that's your favorite meat? I was like, that's saying something. That's amazing. And he goes, no. I said favorite food.
Wow.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. There you go.
So,
well, he should be able to start applying in what, 6 years? 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, I had a 7-month-old eating pieces of bear, and I was like, that'll put hair on his little chest.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that. What caliber rifle were you using?
I went with the 7 PRC. I wanted a little more fire. I had a 243, which would have done the job fine. If my wife's listening to this, no, it wouldn't have. And I had a 243, and that's fine. But I thought especially since Missouri seasons, you have to be out there alone. I was like, I want a little more stopping power than that. But I wanted it to be something I could still use. I mean, because I'm going to use it on deer now. I'm going to use it on other game around here. So I wanted something I wasn't overkill for anything else. So I was 7 PRC because I thought if I got a longer shot than I'm used to taking, I don't know, 200-yard shot or something. I've never shot something that far before. I thought I don't want to lose that opportunity in case this is my only shot at a bear. So that's why I went with that caliber, and I have no complaints there.
And do you think that there's any pieces of gear that maybe, somebody draws a tag next year and they're like, oh man, I didn't think that this particular piece of gear is something I never used in the whitetail woods, but that was really effective or helpful in the black bear woods. Is there anything in your kit or in your pack that you might not have had otherwise that you found to be particularly effective?
Yeah, there is. The most used thing in the pack was probably I got one of those Grail water bottles, like a Life Straw filter thing. And man, especially hiking in the national forest where there's a lot of streams and there's a lot of springs, but there is, you're far from where you could go get cleaner filtered water. That's huge because if you're going to be covering enough miles to see enough areas with enough sign, you're going to have to cover a lot of miles, and you're not going to want to carry that much water to do it. So I think even that, I would say get like a Lifestar or Grail or something you can just keep refilling while you go.
And the Grail's the one that you kind of
it's like a French press.
press. Yeah. Okay. I like Platypus. That's kind of like a life straw type of deal. Is you have a dirty bag, filters through that, and then, or it's more like a Sawyer straw actually. But that's something I was keeping
about these than I do.
Well, I came from out west, so it's very, very normal stuff,
It's not here, you throw a water bottle in your backpack and you're good for whitetails around here. So it's not something most people have or think about. That was big. And then I think for the actual season, wind, like scent control is a big part of deer hunting. And it's not a big part of bear hunting because you cannot fool them. You won't trick them. You won't smell not strong enough for a bear not to smell you. Their sense of smell is I forget how many times stronger than a bloodhound. You're not going to trick them with scent cover or whatever. So just leaning into the fact that you are 100% going to have to play the wind. Always be aware of the wind, where it's going and which way it's turning, and that can get tricky. I'm not from the Ozarks. I live in Kansas City. I'm up north here. We don't have the same topographical type of hills. Those thermals, I had to get used to that. I had to learn, what happens in the morning, what happens in the afternoon, what happens, like the air moves different directions. I think that's the biggest thing with bear hunting is you have to be walking into the wind 100% of the time, which changes constantly.
Yep. And understanding thermals isn't, something that a lot of whitetail hunters, learn about. It's something you learn about very, very quickly elk hunting, because you're usually glassing on a ridge, looking down into a valley, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to go down there. And it's like, as soon as you get down there, the wind's going to be right on your neck and they're going to be in the next county. Right. Yeah. But you had kind of mentioned habitat and topography. So, maybe for the guy who draws it next year and he's ready to go start digging in the Mark Twain, what do you recommend where you're finding sign, north side of the mountain, south side of the mountain, elevation bands? Is there any kind of particular habitat that you found really effective with this hunt?
Yeah. The most sign I saw was around that first shelf down from the ridge. Usually, if you're in the Ozarks, they all are kind of at different elevations. If you're at the ones that are like that 1,300 foot elevation, that first shelf is around 11, a couple hundred feet down. That's where I saw the most sign, the most consistently. And then down in those bottoms, but that's almost impossible to walk through, and you're going to be making a lot of noise if and when you do it. And I did that, and I found tons of sign, but I just think it was prohibitive even moving through there most of the time. So I would concentrate, if you get the opportunity, find that sign that's around the first shelf down from the top ridge. Usually it was clear enough I could walk it pretty quietly, and it was heavy with sign. I don't think they like getting ridge lined, so they'll cruise just below that is what it seemed to be.
I could definitely corroborate that information. Even your elevations were very, very congruent with where I was seeing.
Oh, really?
Yep, absolutely.
Nice.
And I was in Christian County, and it's one of those things. Whitetail hunting, you don't take elevation into consideration very often, but I was like, I found sign, I have bears on camera, I need every piece of information I can possibly get to try and put the puzzle together.
Yeah.
And you always hear, it's like down in the deepest, nastiest holler you can find, that's where they're at. But like you said, you get down there and you're, practically stumbling down here, and you're like, I just blew everything out, and like, what am I even doing down here? Right.
Right. Yeah.
I'm out of there. And
now that I'm here, the bears are not.
Right. Right. So it's a tough game to play.
It is. Another pro tip would be, we have a neighboring state with a very established bear hunting season with very established bear hunters called Arkansas. Roger hinted on that. They would smoke us all if it was an even playing field. So use those resources too. I looked at harvest numbers by county of bears in Arkansas, and I looked at a map and I went right above them, and I covered all of that everywhere I could find. Like, okay, there's a lot of bears harvested in Arkansas in that county, touching that county in whichever one was right above it in Missouri, I would just go straight to that one and look around.
And I love so much too that with it being so limited, people are really, really open and free with their information. They're not afraid to be like, oh yeah, man, this county and this ridge and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
We're too dumb so far.
Right. When you're not fighting over these resources, really, you really not. It's like, if you're like, hey man, where's all the big deer at? And it's like, dude, get lost, I'm not telling you where all of my big deer are.
Yeah.
No, that's great, man. Thank you for sharing that story. That's really awesome.
Where were
Congratulations,
you, Roger. Thank you very much. Yeah. I mean, it truly was. I'm treating it like it was once in a lifetime. I don't know if I'll ever have that kind of experience again.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool, pretty special.
What I'd like to add is you did it the right way, which I think some Missourians are not doing. Is you got to do your homework, you got to do your e-scouting, you have to get out there, on the boots on the ground, stuff like that. You put 18. Was how many days? 8 days or whatever.
I mean, I camped 18 nights out there.
18 nights. I mean,
cumulative.
He put all the effort into it that he could. There's like, we have our Facebook group. In July, we get a lot of people on there asking, "Hey, do you have a place to bear hunt?" Yeah, and you should be right now. If you're going to apply for a tag next month in May, you should already know where you should be already scouting online, maybe talking to some people. And I always tell people, go down there, go spring turkey hunting down in that area.
Good idea.
Just get familiar with that area. I mean, and then September, go squirrel hunting down there. Walk around, look for do that or something. Get yourself down there a few weekends or something in the woods, looking for bear sign. Getting yourself, like he said, getting that site. Looking for bear scat.
Yeah.
The damage in the trees, the scratches. Getting yourself familiar with that, especially like we're both from the Kansas City area. I'm lucky enough I have opportunity. I go down there quite a bit because my parents' farm is down there, Howell County. So I go down there. I'm going down there this weekend to do turkey hunting. So. I see bears. Last year I had 4 different bears come on camera through our property. Now, do they stay there? No. I mean, usually they have a big area of travel. So they, usually after September or Labor Day, I don't see bears usually on my cameras. Mm-hmm. It's, it's very hard. I mean, I think I got 1 in October and 1 in November that came through there. So they travel a lot. I see a lot during the summer because there's a lot of, down there in Mark Twain, they're doing a lot of cutting, the forest and stuff. And the logging roads have a lot of blackberries, and you can follow these roads, the logging roads, and find bear scat and bear sign, all kinds of stuff. But that's in July and August. Mm-hmm. In October, that might not be the case. So you got to look for acorns and stuff like. You got to do your homework. You just can't apply for a tag and then hope somebody's going to let you hunt on their property. I know a lot of people look into that, maybe hoping that might happen, but. Yeah, I mean, it might happen, but your chances are very slim. You got, like you
said, I made a lot of phone calls. Came up with a good egg on that one.
Mm-hmm. I get people, I post a picture of our bears on our Facebook. I get on camera, just kind of show, oh, can I bear hunt your property? I said, no. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would say you can bear hunt Mark Twain close to the property, but I mean, not our property. But, stuff like that, you should already kind of have an idea what you want to do, where you want to hunt. Like, you should already know what zone you want to hunt, whether it's zone 1 or 2 or even 3. Yeah, you should have that in kind of areas where you want to hunt beforehand. Before you apply for a tag in May, you should have an idea where you got to know where you're going and what zone, because you have to do that during your applying for your tag. So,
unless you're one of the protester buyers, then only buy in zone 3.
Yeah. Zone 3 could use your money more than zone 1 for sure.
Hey, zone 3, I predict at some point somebody's going to get a bear and it's going to grow. It's going to have bears killed in zone 3.
It'll happen.
I wouldn't be surprised in 5 to 10 years that zone 2 surpasses zone 1 because it's bigger and it's got a lot more moratorium. I could see that zone becoming a better zone than zone 1 at the moment.
I don't know if I'd want one of those. I don't know if I'd want one of those zone 3 swamp bears. Might not be quite as tasty as one of these berry bears. And
any kind of bear is tasty,
Yeah. No, and I think one thing that you said, Roger, that I really resonate with is those logging roads, because in Oregon, where I come from, you can get a fall bear tag every year. You buy what's called a sportsman's pack, and it's elk tag, deer tag, your fall bear tag, mountain lion tag, turkey. I mean, everything. It's just like go out and just have fun and shoot whatever comes your way dang near. And me and my brother would go out, and it was always on logging roads, big berry patches. And anytime we were on a bear's sort of loop, it would be like, man, I'll never forget this one time. We had found this really, really prolific blackberry patch that also had a blueberry patch right next to it. And we kind of walked up on it, and gosh, it was hotter than the dickens. It was probably 95 degrees that day, in the fall. And so we had seen it, and we was like, man, scat all over the place. And I actually found like a muskrat head from like he was eating this rodent that come by, and it was fresh, right? I mean, it still had flies and stuff on it, and it was right in front of that berry patch. I'm like, man, he's just hungry right here. So we sat, about 100 yards back over that patch for 2 days, waiting for him to come back through. And he never did, unfortunately, maybe, but it's so thick out there where it's like he could have heard us coming or smelled us coming and jumped into some reprod, and that stuff's thick, side by side timber, just like this. And I'm like, he could be right there looking right at us, and we would never know because it's just so thick and nasty out there. But right off of a logging road, and I mean, you could walk logging roads the rest of your life out there and never hit the same trail twice, but again, that's the same thing that we have out here. It's just burning that boot leather. You got to do it,
Yeah. I mean, plan on, that was one thing I saw before the season was, I think, a clip of Clay Newcomb saying that in Arkansas, in National Forest, he would plan on 65 miles before seeing a bear on his boots. It's just what he would plan on in his head. It's just like, you got to cover at least that much, then maybe you'll start seeing bears. So I had that number in my head, and then I thought, okay, well, that's Arkansas with more bears than we have. I better up that number a little bit. And I think and I'll count scouting too, because I was looking for bears. I hiked over 100 miles looking. Probably 60, 65 of that was during bear season, but I hiked a lot of miles in the forest, and I mean, that was a buzzer beater bear that I found at the end of it. So it's not like it's going to work out at the end every time, but miles was what it took.
And that's, if you start breaking it down, it's very doable, right? It's like hiking 7 miles a day over a 10 days period of time. It's a pretty good effort in the day. It's like you could break that up in the first half, hang out, have lunch, whatever, until sundown, and then camp out and do it all again. And if you can commit the 10 days or 2 5-day blocks, but the hunting season's only, is it 10 days or is it 7?
It was 2 weeks. Yeah.
2 weeks. Okay, that's what it was. Yeah. So, you got to break it down strategically like that and what works well. The most time that I was able to spend out there was in that hot spell that we had in it. And, I actually go back and forth on this. I'm curious to get your guys' input, because I've heard people say it's like, it's hot, they're not moving, they're not doing anything. Other people say when it's hot, they're moving more, and it's actually a great time to. So do you guys have you heard any information to corroborate either of those stories?
I don't know how temperature affects that. In the fall, once they hit that hyperphagia. How do you say that?
Phagia, I believe.
Hyperphagia. Once they hit that, it's just the calories in, calories out calculation that drives them. So if they don't have to move and they can keep consuming calories where they're at, I think that matters more than the temperature. I don't know what that temperature would do.
I would say it has some effect, because you look at the last 2 seasons before you get that rainstorm towards the end there, the bear season, it was pretty dry in the Ozarks last couple of years. So finding a water source, the bear has to have some water, eating all those calories. Hopefully most likely he's going to move late in the evenings, at night, or early in the morning or whatever. So he's got to drink something if he's eating that 200 or 20,000 calories a day, whatever it is. So, and he's going to move because he's wanting not spending so much energy when it's cooler. So it's hotter. I would say he's probably eating more. But if he's going to go drink something and get some water or something at the creek or river or wherever he's at, or cool off. Sometimes, let's say some of the times in October, it could be 80 degrees or more.
Yeah.
So
wallowing behavior, do they do that to cool down, Roger? Do you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They help especially during the summer. they'll waller in a water pond, a lake, river, creek, whatever, something to cool it off during the day. So
yeah. So I got a couple points here on non-Missouri bear issues that I wanted to cover. Number one is the Arkansas fatalities that we've seen last year and the year prior. That obviously shook up the whole state. I mean, everybody was talking about that here from here all the way down to, Stuttgart, right? What's your guys' kind of take on that? And, if anybody is seeing this who might be afraid to go back out to Devil's Den or wherever it may be, what are some advice that you guys have to maybe be safer in the woods, whether it's carrying a firearm, bear spray, whatever it is, or just some thoughts you guys have in general about those encounters? Because there's a lot kind of to digest there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, we were lucky enough to be invited to the BHA Bear Bonanza in Arkansas in March 1st.
Yep.
And our chapter gave a presentation on bear safety in the woods and hiking and camping. Just be your basic. You can carry bear spray, a firearm, or something. Those two incidents in Arkansas are, the one. Honestly, I mean, the guy was taking pictures. He was feeding the bear. That you got to use common sense. They're still a wild animal. The other guy who's working on his tractor and got attacked, that could be anybody. We could have a flat tire in the Ozarks or something. I mean, it was a young bear. It was kind of odd. I mean, what I understand, the bear was only 70 pounds, so that's not a very big bear.
Yeah.
So maybe he thought the guy was an easy target. I don't know. Like I said, but yeah, you gotta. It's a wild animal. You gotta, it's in the wild. It's there. You gotta be paying attention. You never know. So, I mean, you gotta be prepared. So if you're hiking, bring a weapon, a gun, a stick, something. I'm not really encountering many bears in the woods. Usually, if I see them, it's a glimpse of them going the opposite direction. Especially when I'm turkey hunting or something, or even deer hunting, or just walking. Sometimes I will catch a glimpse of them. I've never had a face-to-face encounter with one in the Missouri woods yet. So I think hunting them, like Levi said earlier, was that keeps them from going in town and stuff. I think, like, if you look at a state like Virginia, hound hunting, if hound hunting is in that county and that bear has been chased by hounds, he's not going to go in town when he hears that chihuahua barking. Well, I don't know about that, maybe some little dog, he might, if there's one, there might be another one. They chased me for 4 or 5 hours and I finally climbed a tree, but stuff like that. I mean, they're a wild animal. I mean, you got to use some common sense, bear spray, especially as the population grows. And we're going to start getting more and more encounters with them, especially because I think they're moving more north, like you said. And we got north. We got St. Louis and Kansas City, 2 metro areas with a big population, and they don't know much about wildlife, and most of them, don't even know we have bears. And we got our bear shirts for our chapter. It says we have bears on the back because we get that question all the time. Missouri has bears. I've never seen one.
Yep.
Well, we do have bears in Missouri. It's just you're gonna have to go south most likely to see one. But a lot of people up north in cities don't know we even have bears. So
gosh, I can't wait to see a story of a bear walking downtown St. Louis. That'll be the day, huh?
Well, they're getting closer.
Gladstone in Kansas City, and it was all over the news for like 2 days. It was people were freaking out.
Yeah, I think one was in a Taco Bell parking lot eating in the trash or something in Kansas City. So
how was that Bear Bonanza? I wasn't able to make that one.
It's a great show. I recommend going there. I mean, we got 2 or 3 new members from there. We're hoping eventually to get a chapter in Arkansas. But while we're down there, we met people from Oklahoma, which are having some problems with bear at their state level. So I think they're going to be the next chapter in the Midwest. Oklahoma's going to have American Bear Foundation chapter. There's a guy really, really pushing for it. He just needs to find some other Oklahoma residents that want to do it.
And there was some proposed regulation changes to Oklahoma recently, which I believe was an increased opportunity, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's what this guy really wanted to do, sort of chapter, possibly to help, fight some of that stuff. I think it was they were going to open up bear season from like bow season, like September 15th to January 15th.
Oh wow, that's a very generous season.
Yeah, and I think there wasn't any quotas, and it was a guy, a congressman or something. I don't know exactly all the details. He had no research. He was just making a bill and trying to get it passed through the Senate and all that stuff without any research, without talking to the conservation department and all this other stuff. So of course, Oklahoma residents were not. Some bear hunters that are residents in Oklahoma were up in arms about it. So they're interested.
Well, she's not that cool. That's a heck of a season.
Well, and if you think about it, it's kind of a pointless season. It's like you're not going to find a bear in December or January. I mean, that's insane.
No. You'd be den hunting anyway.
If you do find one, it'd be a male, most likely. And I think, even Missouri, in December, you see bears, it's going to be a male bear. The female, if she's pregnant with going to have cubs in the spring, she's in a den. She's already denned up. Males will sometimes stay out longer because, especially if it's warm. If it gets cold, if we get a cold snap, they'll slow down, find a spot, take it easy for a while. But having a late season like that, I hope Missouri doesn't do anything like that, and I hope Oklahoma doesn't do anything like that. Hopefully, they figure that out and have it, September, October, like they do. Maybe extend it a little bit, maybe a month long, but I don't think 4-month season is way too much for that.
I heard MDC's bear biologist Nate Bowersock talking. He said that this was like a clip from very early when the bear season was around. He said that the second half of October season was on purpose because of the less likelihood of a pregnant sow being harvested then, that they would be more likely to be denned up in that time, and that most of the harvest would be males.
Yeah. There was one thing about Oklahoma I wanted to touch on before we moved on. And, I don't know if you guys heard recently, Oklahoma, they're releasing captive CWD deer, CWD, not resistant. Well,
what is it?
They're calling them, there's like a buzzword they're throwing around, but effectively pushing out the biologist in this process and doing it through the agricultural department. And it's all this very, senator, through the House and all this type of stuff, these bills in this way that is just like so disappointing to me, because it's like, man, you guys are trying to release this thing that's not rooted in science and into the wild and there's been some great statements from the Boone and Crockett Club and Pope and Young saying, if you guys continue with this, Oklahoma deer may potentially never be eligible for a Boone and Crockett or Pope and Young entry again, which I really like. And I just hate to see these states, and this is a neighboring state, if they did this in a northeast, Oklahoma County, it's not impossible for that to come over here into Jasper County or Newton County or, somewhere over here. And to me, it's just so disappointing. And to hear that it seems as if though they're doing this similar stuff with bears that's not necessarily biologically driven, and they're not putting their resources in their faith into their conservation department to make these decisions, it worries me for the future of some of our wildlife.
Yeah,
truly, especially in a neighboring state.
Yeah.
Where are the genetics from, and how does that affect? Are they expecting that to get bred into the population and make them more, is resistant the word?
Yeah. Or like robust against it. And so it's, coming from captive deer farms, but again, the science isn't corroborated. I mean, Oklahoma, they say they have 750,000 whitetail, and in order to get those genetics spread even enough, it would be to the tune of roughly 75,000 deer a year, over 75,000 captive deer that are bred with this CWD robustness, but that's not accounting for potential diseases they may be carrying that are unknown, and the types of. But again, it's like, let the wild animals be wild. I know CWD is a hotbed item, and it's not something that I'm the most educated about. I'll be the first to admit. But when I hear about, to me, I'm just like, And here's one of the big things about it is that these captive deer breeders the whole time have always been like, CWD is a hoax. These are your biggest CWD deniers. And it's like, well, okay, why are you guys denying it so much? Because deer farms is where CWD is most prevalent. Okay. So they're like, no, CWD is not even real. We don't have it on our farm. And now all of a sudden they see an opportunity to be like, oh, we can sell 75,000 deer a year to the state. Come on, man. You can't offer somebody that type of money and that type of opportunity without having some level of corruption. And unfortunately, it's reached, the senator level where some of these deer breeders clearly have close political ties. And we're seeing the same thing here. There's people who want these bear regulation changes who have people in politics who are able to make changes. And it's, man, it's nasty business. And I just hate to see our wildlife be tampered like this, because it just, to me, it takes a little bit of the magic out of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on. I was going to ask where who benefits from it, follow the money. Where's it go? And if it's straight up breeders are going to be selling 75,000 deer, okay, maybe they're not the ones where the information should be coming from then.
Yeah.
About what to do.
Yeah. But this isn't a deer podcast. We don't have to go too far down that. The other news item I had here is California recently raised their bear limit to 2 during the season. I don't know if you guys seen that or if you have any thoughts about that. I mean, California is one of those states where, gosh, you post a grip and grin out there, you'd probably get lynched or something. I mean, it'd be
something. Yeah. During my bear research, that was one of the areas that, like, you watch any of those hunts and you're like, man, this bear hunting thing's easy.
Mm-hmm.
You walk out to a ridge and you blow a predator call and 2 bears come running up. It's like, that's so. Yeah, I hope they do harvest more and get that to a manageable, sustainable level for those. I mean, if people like wildlife, they should want wildlife to have a balance. And it's one thing to say, well, then humans should stay out of it. Leave us as a non-factor. Let wildlife have their own balance. A predator gets overpopulated, well, there's then going to be more disease and die off, which means the prey animals come up in population. Then there's more opportunity. So there's a natural balance to things. Sure, if we didn't already mess things up so bad. So some of it's mitigating what humans have already done. Some of it's mitigating the fact that we have interrupted that natural cycle so bad that to now step out of it and say that it should be handled without a management through hunting is more detrimental to the animal population as a whole than anything else. Overpopulation of bear, great, but if you ask those same residents how they feel about any of the other wildlife populations, and if they want healthy deer population, healthy turkey population, well, it's going to require less bears.
That's really well put.
Yeah, I'm all for it. We have a chapter in California, and I know those guys are, definitely for more bear opportunities for their people, and even non-residents can get tags out in California. So I actually ran into a guy from around the Springfield area from California, and again, what Levi said, he said, bear hunting's easy. All you do is find them and stay there for 3 days and you can kill one.
Yeah.
That's what he told me. He said, I killed bears since the 70s. And all I did is find a sign and set up there for 3 days and I got me one. And they're like, oh, wow, really? That's all you did? And like,
that's it.
I'm not arguing. He's an old timer. I said, yeah, but I don't hunt bears no more. But back in the day in California, it was easy. I had no problem at all getting one every year. So, I mean,
Watch these videos of these guys that make predator calls, and they were just demoing them, taking people out hunting. And I don't know where they were in coastal California. It was coastal, and they were just walking ridges. They'd blow that call, and they would literally see like 2 or 3 bears per spot that they went after they blew the call. They'd be like, "Oh, look at that one, a color phase. Oh, look at that." It's like, what?
Yeah.
So it's too many, but it's too many of an animal I love. So that's that's saying something if it's too much of a good thing.
Yeah, well, and California notoriously has decreasing hunter participation numbers, and obviously if you think about anti-hunters, California is a a hotbed for that type of environment. So, it's one of those states that I have no problem kind of quote unquote spot burning, because I think the more just awareness that people have that this season's available. And if you're a hunter, you're out there, maybe you talk to some hikers and it's like, oh, this hunter is actually a really nice person and he's bear hunting and he loves eating the meat. And it's like those interactions, you can change hearts and minds one person at a time. And so, because I think the tag, I want to say you can have a black bear tag in California, $500 maybe as a non-resident.
500, I think, plus the license like $200 or something.
Yeah,
it's about $800. I think it's like $800 in taxes and everything, something like that.
Wow.
For non-resident, if you want to go, but you have to get out there and drive out there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, non-resident hunting is expensive. It's getting more and more expensive everywhere. But I think it's one of those things where, if we think about it like a privilege or almost like a luxury, like Levi's hunt, it's like that is an experience that's so difficult to put a price tag on. I mean, I'd hate to get to be 80 years old and be like, well, I'm glad I got all this money and I can't use any of it to hunt, or I can't tell any stories about, oh, I thought about elk hunting this one time, or I thought about going to California and bear hunting, but never did. Just was saving money instead. You got to make those memories, you got to make those experiences. And it sounds like it's a really, really good opportunity for residents and non-residents alike. So I think people should definitely take advantage of that. I think that's a great option.
What do you think about that versus places with a high population that's still a draw versus places? I mean, one thing you're mentioning about it getting more expensive, I almost don't mind out of state hunts being expensive, because like what you said, it's a luxury if you can do that anyway. Mm-hmm. But if you can't, I love what local hunting is. Like mm-hmm. I grew up in Kansas hunting farmland always. I had my parents' land, and I always, in my head, I pictured it. I had all this space, which was 40 acres, but really what it was hundreds, because that 40 acres touched that neighbor's property, and I could hunt all of it. And I knew everybody by name. It was that kind of place. And that was extremely, unbeknownst to me, such a privileged way to grow up hunting, was just like pick a direction and walk. And those neighbors knew me and I could do it. But here, living in Kansas City as an adult now, I don't have that. So I've switched to public land hunting, which is a whole other beast. But it's like also, if out of state hunting is unaffordable and inaccessible to you, I promise you, within a short drive, one you can get to before light, there's places to hunt that can stump you for years, that you're going to have to work hard at and be outside a lot to have any success there. And I think that's beautiful too. So I almost think like, sure, make out of state expensive, because I'm fine buckling down and getting comfortable and getting to know land and getting to know the animals in this area, getting to know their patterns. Like there's something super beautiful and valuable about that too.
I think where the problem really lies is, and I'm in support, like for example, in Missouri, I'm in support of the non-resident changes. I think that Missouri is a great deer hunting state, and I think the residents are currently at a disadvantage. Especially up north. The closer you get to the Iowa border, I hear that the public pressure is just absolutely just horrendous. It's difficult because, for a couple $100, you can go hunt, a stone's throw away from, the whitetail mecca, and people think that that's just how big bucks are killed. And it's like, well, you and 10,000 other people have the same idea, so those big bucks are probably pretty well tapped out at this point. But as you know, in Kansas City and in St. Louis, public land is tough. There's just, you have population centers, and getting a lease is insanely expensive. It's something that I don't even consider. But I'm a public land guy through and through. So I'm like, oh, you want 5,000 acres for $5,000 for this overgrown 40 acres you got in, Rolla, Missouri? It's like that. I bet you do want $5,000 for that. That would be nice, sure. But like, you're not going to get it from me. Definitely not. But look, I have points in dang near every Western state for elk and all sorts of other species. I like to have my hat in some type of sheep bucket once a year whether that's a $20 raffle or a $300 raffle, unfortunately I don't live in Oregon anymore. So it's like my chances of ever having a sheep tag have gone down, tremendously. So I just have to get lucky. I don't ever see a time in my life where even if I won the lottery, I'm spending $50,000 on a Mexico sheep hunt or something like that. Right. So it's a game. And I talk to a lot of people who have a hard time just playing the most rudimentary level of that, like, how do I hunt elk in Colorado and that's a draw? I'm like, man, it's really easy. Go on the website, or even go on the website and say, send me a regulation, and read it. Read it like it's, bow hunter magazine that you're like fascinated with, because there's a lot of really, really good information in there. But naturally, when states go to a draw like this, like when Colorado did, you have less people applying because of the barrier to entry. Before, you could just drive into Colorado, go to a gas station, give them your, however much it might have been at the time. It's up to like $800 now for an elk tag, and then you can go hunt wherever you want in the whole state. Well, that's not good for anybody's surveys or elk population numbers or harvest numbers. And then, I didn't report the harvest, and then now your data can be off. And so I think at the core of it, Colorado wants more accurate data. I'm not really too conspiratorial when it comes to wildlife biology. I do think there is some weird stuff that could happen, but it's more in states like Washington, where you have legitimate people with history of non-hunting, anti-hunting, now sitting on your wildlife commission board and stuff like that. Those are not those. It sounds like a conspiracy, but it's very true. And there's some controversies going on over there. But I think about it like this. If you just look at the basic math in a state like Missouri, you could get 2 buck tags for $200 as a non-resident up until this year. So let's say you have 3 people buying that. That's 6 deer, 3 trucks at a trailhead, $700 roughly, right? Now you could get that same $700 from one person for 1 deer for 1 truck at the trailhead. So it's like, if we say, okay, this is going to, because I made a video about this and hundreds of comments. Well, it looks like I'm never coming to Missouri again, or like just ignorant stuff like that. It's like, cool, man. Well, thanks for stopping by, But so now if we look at it, it's like, okay, now we have less deer being taken off the landscape because we're now, potentially having 6 deer taken off. We're only going to have 1 for that same price. Right. And then now, instead of having 3 trucks at the trailhead, we're going to only have 1 for that same price. And now that one hunter who's like, man, I just love hunting deer, $600. It's like, thank God I can afford that. Or, most people, if they want to go mow some lawns or do something, you could really make it happen. You're like, you know what? I'm going to save $1,000. I'm going to go do an out-of-state hunt, and I'm going to sleep in my van, and I'm going to eat, Casey's pizza or whatever I can get my hands on. If I don't care if it's a pallet of top ramen or one of them deals. I just love hunting deer so much. And then they're going to go out to Missouri, and in 2-3 years, once we see our age class going up, because we're taking less bucks off the landscape, especially in those northern areas, he's going to go and be able to take a 140 or 150, which will become more common in those areas, and have a super, super memorable hunt that he'll be very, very proud to tell people about. Instead of, I have friends who are outfitters, and, when they talk about really, really liberal turkey seasons, it would be like, guys are just coming out killing 2 turkeys in Missouri, 2 turkeys in Nebraska, 2 turkeys in Kansas, get the grip and grin. It's like, yeah, you'll do whatever you want with them fans and meat and just move on. And it's like, So I think this effort, if we look at it altruistically, is to put a higher value intrinsically on Missouri deer and ultimately offer a better experience for residents and non-residents alike. But people are resistant to change. And so that's my personal philosophy on what I think is happening there.
I think we needed to. I agree with you. It needed to mature it a bit and bring us up to some standards. I do think that in-state hunters should have an advantage in their state, regardless of which state it is and what animal we're talking about. If they're the ones, like you mentioned, there's multiple ways people pay for conservation. There's multiple in some of their property tax for living there, some of their sales tax for living. Say that sort of stuff can go to that. And I think living in Missouri, you should have more privileges in Missouri than out of state. Same with Kansas. If you're a Missouri resident You have to apply to hunt a deer in Kansas for a draw. You're not just going to get it. So I think it's reciprocal and it's normal enough that I think the backlash is largely people who probably would whine about anything, any change.
Totally. Well, and the reality is too, no matter what state you live in this country, you don't need to come to Missouri. You could hunt whitetail deer in dang near any state, or every state has relatively good hunting opportunities. I think there's only 1 or 2 states that it's possible to not get a tag in. So
that's what I meant by like, I'm fine with out of state in general, the bar raising on how difficult that is, and people in general in all 50 states having an advantage in their own state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think, Roger?
Well, like I said, like Iowa, I do believe you have to apply for a tag out of state. So I mean, it's a draw. So in Kansas, it's like $600 for a tag or something like that, I think. So I mean, Missouri definitely need to change some of their, non-resident prices and stuff like that, and quota limits and stuff like that to give like the Missouri residents better opportunity and all that. So I'm all for it. So I mean, like Levi said, every state should benefit the residents of their state. They should think of them first, and then the people coming in. I mean, of course, we want their money. They're going to rent hotels, buy food, buy gas, and that's going to help, especially some of these small farm communities, up north where all these people from Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi come up and hunt for a week or whatever it is. So we still want that dollar, but we still want to see the opportunity for Missouri residents, to have the opportunity to hunt, So
So you guys have an expo coming up. Let's dive into that.
Okay.
Tell me everything. Let's hear it.
All right. Well, it's going to be our second year of doing this. It's our second annual. We're calling it the Missouri Hunting Expo. It's our biggest fundraiser of the year. We were looking at, we're a brand new hunting conservation group. You see Ducks Unlimited, National Wild Turkey Federation, the Rocky Mountain. They have dinners and stuff, but they had quite a bit of national members and stuff like that. The American Bear Foundation is brand new, so they do have a banquet out in Wyoming, yearly banquet, and I think it was March or something. So they do that, but one of our goals in our chapter was having an event, at least 1 or 2 events a year, and this is what our board came up with last year, and we had it last May, and it turned out pretty good. We only had about 200 people show up the first year. We had 17 vendors. We had 1 seminar, and this year we're looking at over 25 vendors. I think we're going to have at least 4 seminars going on. We got a lot of raffles, kids raffles, so a lot of prizes. Got a gun raffle. We got other conservation groups that we want to work with. Like I said, we got the National Wild Turkey Federation, the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, the Ozarks Chinkapin should be there. Missouri Hunting Heritage Foundation is going to be there, or Federation, excuse me. So they're going to be there. That different things different conservation groups that we want to partner with are going to be there to help grow that area. And we picked West Plains, Missouri. It's kind of where Zone 1 and Zone 2 split. And if you put a dot on West Plains and go 100-mile radius, that's probably your core bear area in Missouri. So we are trying to attract bear hunters. That's why we chose that area. Plus, we're a brand new chapter. Our funds were very slim. So going to Branson or Springfield or Poplar Bluff, Rolla was a little bit more pricey. Where West Plains was more in our price range for renting the Civic Center. It's going to be at the Civic Center there in downtown West Plains, just from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So it's only a 6-hour show. It's $5 to get in. Kids 12 and under are free. If you're 65 and older, it's free to come in. If you're a veteran, or active military, it's free. If you're a first responder, it's also free. So we basically want you to get in the door and then hopefully talk to some of these vendors, talk to the conservation, maybe get in our raffle, raise money. Like I said, we're going to have raffle throughout the day, door prizes, a kids raffle. So there'll be kids prizes. We got fishing poles and little toy bows and different things. So it should be a lot of fun. We got cornhole. We're gonna have a couple cornhole things. So if you're not going to spend all 6 hours there, we're gonna have a color kids activity area. So it should be fun for the family. So bring your family, your kids, all that stuff. So it should be a lot of fun. We're hoping to grow it again next year. So there's something,
And
you know.
did you say the date when that is exactly?
I don't think I did. May 16th.
May 16th. Okay. Yep. So
Saturday,
coming
May
up.
16th.
So like I said, I'm going to expedite this episode, and we'll make some clips and stuff so people can kind of be aware of that. And we have a board meeting at the beginning of the month for backcountry hunters and anglers, and I'll definitely make sure and mention it there and do the best that I can to kind of help promote it, because man, you know, it's we got to stick together. You know, it's like even if you can't get a bear tag every year, it might inspire you to get involved. And obviously, you know, I mean, I got so many auto pays on conservation groups. I mean, Rocky Mountain, Turkey, you know, everything just comes out. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'll give the ducks another $25 this year. You know?
And like I said, we're trying to get, like, the BHA will not be there. We're trying to get a chapter, you know, maybe in West Plains. West Plains used to have a Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation chapter and a Turkey Foundation chapter, but COVID killed a lot of these conservation chapters and stuff, you know, so it's a different model now. So hopefully, you know, that area it's the core area for bear hunting, but we want to work with other organizations and stuff, you know, because, you know, just like that chinkapin, Ozark chinkapin chestnut tree. I mean, it benefits turkeys, it benefits deer, you know, it's, you know, other organizations. We got the quail forever, pheasants forever going to be there too. So it's all kinds of different conservation groups. We hope to grow it more. We got Tacticam, Browning trail cameras. You know, we got room for probably 50 vendors, so we're only halfway there. It's only our second year. One of the biggest thing, I guess I forgot to mention, Levi, I didn't remind me of this, is we're having for the first time in Missouri, the Missouri Big Bucks is going to measure bear skulls.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So if you got a black bear skull or that you got a bear for the last 5 years and you bring it there and you want to get measured, you know, you're probably going to get in the record book, because it'll be the first 20, 25 bears measured. So it'll also be measuring a little. So
it'll be official.
That's a record. They're starting there because I ran into them last fall at a show and they were thinking about doing it anyway. I said, how about you come to our show and measure it? You know, that's our core area where the bears are at. Hopefully, as of right now, I think we're gonna have at least 3 people bring their bear skulls and get measured. And I don't know how many antlers and sheds and mounts and all that's going to be brought in there. So he was asking how many people are going to be there. I said, hopefully maybe 50 people, as I thought maybe might bring deer and bear. Hell, we might get 100. So we're hoping for 5 to 1,000 people there.
Yeah. That'd be great. And so if you know, a vendor did want to get involved, what's the best way to kind of contact you guys for something like that?
The best thing, you know, is our Facebook or Instagram pages. Reach out to us there. That's where most of them is. You know, we do go around the area and talk to different companies and businesses around West Plains and the surrounding areas. And you know, we got some of them going to be there. Some of them are, you know, a lot of them are brand new. Want to know, you know, how many people you could get there. So you got to kind of grow it a little bit. So some of these vendors are kind of hesitant, but we kept the cost down. It's only $50 for a 10x10 booth.
Yeah.
And it's free if you're a nonprofit organization. So if you're a nonprofit organization, it's free. We want you to come there because we want to build that partnership with you. So hopefully maybe if you want to raffle something off or something, maybe, you know, show what you do and maybe get a chapter there. You know, that's why the National Wild Turkey is going to have a booth there. They want to get a chapter reestablished. So stuff like that. So,
and you know, people love raffles. So what kind of raffle prizes are you guys looking at?
Well, we got a redneck soft side blind and chair donated from Redneck Blinds. And then we have a Ruger Gen 2.
Yeah, Ruger American Gen 2.
For the spiral Gen 2, 308. That's from us. We were going to raffle off at our booth. We got hunting blinds. Like I said, kids got fishing poles, hats, t-shirts. We got all kinds of hats.
Yeah.
If you don't get I would say 1 in 5 people are getting a hat probably from.
Don't wear a hat.
Yeah, you're probably gonna get a hat because
a
lot of companies have donated us hats and stuff, and so we got lots of hats. In fact, the last few shows we've done, we've had a hat raffle. Kind of, if you spin a wheel, you could possibly win a hat or a keychain or something. We got different merchandise, t-shirts, hats. So you know, it should be a lot of fun. You know, for the families, it's pretty cheap, $5. You know.
If people want to get tickets ahead of time, they can go to MissouriBearFoundation.org.
Okay. .org.
There's
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, Levi just set that up, so it's, and hopefully we get more
Right,
merchandise on there too.
Yep.
So that'll help us sell merchandise and stuff on there on it. It's Shopify, right?
It is. Yep.
Well, and it's the type of thing where getting a chapter, going and off the ground, it's a lot of work and it's a labor of love. I'm sure, it's not nobody's getting rich off of this, and so it's for the love of the wildlife and in conservation. Which, again, it's this type of thing. It's like it's putting your money where your mouth is, and if we want to see our children and our grandchildren be able to enjoy bear hunting, whitetail hunting, duck hunting, whatever it may be, these are the types of things that we can do to help ensure that future. And so, my hat's off to you guys for doing the hard work. And, I'm going to do everything that I can to help support it and to grow the foundation and be a part of it in any way that I can.
Yeah, well, it's $35 to join American Bear Foundation, but part of your membership, you get Bear Hunting Magazine, which is 6 issues a year. So if you did just that, it's $30. So extra $5, you become a member, and based on your Missouri residence, as long as you're a Missouri resident, you will automatically become a member of the Missouri Bear Foundation. So, and like I said, you'll have different, members, merchandise specials, stuff like that. Voting rights. Next year we'll be electing officers again. So our member, if you're an active member, you can vote. So, like I said,
I was gonna say, is that the same bear hunting magazine formerly owned by Clay Newcomb?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Colby Moorhead owns it now, runs it, and so, yep. So, yeah.
And
we're trying to get him to come there sometime, but the problem right now is our expo is in May. We would like to have it maybe in February or March, maybe sometime in the future, but right now that was the only open weekend they had. And May is also when you apply for bear tags and elk tags. So it's after turkey season. We didn't want to interrupt people's turkey season. So it's a weekend after turkey season. So, so you should have hunting still on the mind a little bit. So hopefully we get people in there, to see what's going on down there. So the more the merrier. Like I said, love to have you become a member of our chapter there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
absolutely. And that's really the best way people could support. If they can't show up, if they want to become a member, pay up that $35, get their magazine, and just become an advocate. If it's the type of thing, you have people over for dinner, they see a bear hunting magazine on the coffee table, that's a good conversation starter right there. And there's always great information. I've had a couple issues of Bear Hunter magazine myself, and it's a great publication. It truly is. So
yeah, I'm trying to get Levi
when he looks on an airplane, but
I'm trying to get Levi to write a little article about his bear hunting and get in a bear hunting magazine. Because if he writes it, I think we can get Colby to put it in a bear hunting magazine. And I think the January issue had a guy wrote an article about the first bear killed in Ozarks County, Missouri. So he's going to be at our expo getting his bear skull measured. So they're,
yeah.
So definitely, we want to see Missouri bear hunting grow this summer. If you're really interested in black bear hunting, I'm going to, again, I went last year in Minnesota to the black bear show there. This year it's in Grand Rapids, Minnesota.
Okay.
So it's just
not to be confused with Grand Rapids, Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get it mixed up. But last year I learned a lot talking to the guys from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. They have a rich bear hunting tradition up there. Baiting's allowed. Wisconsin's got hounds and stuff like that. So it's very, very eye-opening just to go up there and talk to them. And my booth had the guy, I can't, his name's Jesse. I'm a butcher his name. It starts with a K, but he has the Minnesota record black bear. And this black bear was 600 and some odd pounds. I mean, 2 pieces of plywood didn't cover this bear. How it stretched next. I have a picture of me. I need to get a picture of me next to it because I'm 6'1". It made me look small, and he had an enclosed trailer and had 2 pieces of plywood and like another foot on either side. He had to fold it up to put it in there to get in his trailer to bring it to the black bear show. So it's humongous. And all the bear skulls that was bringing in there, they had them getting measured too. That's where I got the idea, hopefully getting it at our expo. But then they had talking to people about baiting. I'm trying to get people from Minnesota to come down to Missouri eventually to our expo. Because if you look at the regulations, you can't bait, but you can use scents. So it's legal. So there's a couple companies that make scent. I don't know if you ever seen YouTube videos where they squirt it into trees and the bear sniffs it and then mark the tree and they rub it in the next bear. That's how I get a lot of bears on my camera. I've done that in the past, made that solution up and sprayed in the tree, and that draws them in onto the camera. But yeah, you could possibly do that. They got different flavors. I'm trying to get some of those organizations made to come down here because I think there's an opportunity to grow some business down here in Missouri eventually, maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah. As it grows, you can grow with it.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Whatever, Roger. I sprayed that snake oil in tree and I got 0 pictures.
Like I said, it works sometimes. It doesn't work all the time. Like I said, I don't get a lot of pictures in October. So
yeah,
but I do. I try to spray the tree, and like I said, I got pictures of the bear rubbing on there and scratching and stuff. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, fellas. I really appreciate you guys coming on. Did I miss anything that you guys wanted to touch on?
I don't think so. Thank you for having us.
Just
great to talk about it.
Love to see a lot of new bear hunters at the expo. Like I said, if you're out there looking to go bear hunting, you should be doing your homework now before you apply, and kind of know what you're looking for. I know you said something about the biologist looking at males and females in late October.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're about 50-50 there of what I've seen so far. So I don't know if that's exactly helping anything, but I think Missouri has the potential to become a good bear state. I think, I think the population will continue to grow. One thing I tell people, I like to see the bears stay in the Ozarks.
Yeah.
I know we have zone 3 all the way up there, and when I was up in Minnesota last year, they have a no quota zone, which is in southern Minnesota, and it's kind of where all their corn is grown. But the bears from the north woods of Minnesota walk hundreds of miles to get into the cornfields, and they make crop circles.
Oh wow.
I don't know if it's going to happen here in Missouri, but we have a lot of corn grown in Missouri, especially around the Missouri River, that area where, I like the bears to stay in the Ozark Mountains and Mark Twain and stuff. I like to see them stay there. I don't want them traveling, because once they get used to eating that corn, generation after generation of bears are going to come up north. Yeah. Eventually it's closer to Kansas City and St. Louis, that areas, more population areas. So hopefully that's one of the reasons I like to see that chinkapin back in the, another food source that make the bear population grow faster and healthier.
Well, and it makes me think too, I think about like the Missouri elk population, for example. They're not essentially not allowing the herd to leave the designated zones that they really want it to. I can imagine bears will probably do the same thing. The more north they go, either targeted cooling, which obviously people would hate, but you could really, there's a fine line there, but I highly doubt that they would let the bears leave the Ozarks.
No,
they're welcome up here in Platte County. I want pictures of them. Maybe just one.
They can do a lot of damage. A bear can do a lot of damage to a cornfield. If you ever look at Minnesota example, I mean, a bear, and that's where they killed that 600 bear, a 600-pound bear. He is on the outskirts of the North Woods, and where he raises cattle, but there's a lot of corn, and that's what the bear does. They just eat corn and knock it down, and it's not a perfect circle, but they just eat and eat and eat, and it's only a certain time of year. It's like the summertime, so it's not during bear season. Then they go back north. Some of them might stay in the area if there's enough food source, but it just depends. But I could see maybe not in my lifetime, maybe in our kids' lifetime, where our bear population might be a nuisance in our corn farmers, possibly. I don't know. Yeah. Like I said, we're way out, but it's could happen eventually. So
well, it's growing and it's exciting, and it's fun to be on the front end of it. It's like I participated in the first 5 years of it, and as did Levi, and we're going to see more and more success, and it's going, with any luck, it'll get normalized and accepted, and people will become more just tolerant to it and understanding. It's not just a bear skin rug. It's great meat. It's, great grease and really a great story and a great memory. It's not killing an elephant in Africa. Nobody's eating that elephant from what I understand.
Yeah. That's why, I've been applying for the last 5 years, and I've been unlucky enough to get a tag, but me and Nolan, who's our vice president, we're going to Canada in May and first part of June to a bear hunt, black bear hunt. He's been a couple times. This will be my first bear hunt. This is my birthday present to myself.
Nice.
So
Happy birthday,
you know, yeah, it's in June.
That's
so
awesome.
It's my 50th birthday in June. So I'm going on my first black bear hunt. So I'm fingers crossed that I'm lucky enough to get a bear. You know, I already got the tag from Canada, but so I'm looking forward to it. You know, it's an opportunity over bait, of course.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of hunt with a bow. So we'll see. You know, so I'm kind of excited.
I was going to say, from what I understand, what's so great about doing those baited hunts like that is the amount of bear observing that you get to do.
Yes.
You know, I think there was a meat eater video that came out recently where it was like 20, 30 bears that he had seen over a few days, just coming in and just really, he's like, I'm just holding out for a big, mature, boar. No, not boar. Male.
Boar,
yeah.
More,
is it a boar?
Yeah. That's one thing I want, you know, because, you know, I've seen bears on camera, but having different bears in front of me, you know, judging a sex, you know, between a male and a female. And then, of course, you have that barrel in front of you. So a trophy bear is going to be taller than that barrel. So for the smaller bear, just getting that practice, real time bear hunting. You know, granted, it's not exactly what we do here in Missouri, but I think I can learn some stuff from up there from that bear hunt to bring down here. You know, just that knowledge. You know, determining a sow or you know, from the boar and all that. You know, a young bear. You know, a bigger bear, a 400-pound bear, you know, because I'm sure he's going to have pictures on a game camera, and he goes, "This is the bear you're going to be targeting more so, something this size or whatever." So
you know what? I'm crystal balling it right now, Roger. A guy like you're going to do this hunt, and then watch, you'll end up drawing the Missouri bear same year.
That's what my thinking is. My vacation time is very short.
When it rains, it pours.
I just got a turkey in Kansas last weekend.
Yeah,
and I got drawn for Kansas, and then I'm put in for Missouri bear hunting and elk, of course, but you know, that's even harder to get. And then since I applied for Kansas for turkey, I put in for the Kansas deer tag. So I bought a hunting license anyway. Might as well see if I can get a deer tag. You know, so I don't know. I don't only have so much vacation time, so I don't know.
You're gonna have to quit that job so you can hunt full time, dude.
Right.
I think I might have bear fever in October.
Oh yeah, you seem pretty sick in October.
Yeah, I'm thinking my sick days. I got some extra sick days, and I might have to get some days without pay or something, maybe. But.
Yeah.
That's a good point though about the bear selection and bear observation. Because I mean, for the Missouri part, man, I told my dad and I were talking about it, and I said, man, if there's a raccoon missing a tail, like that sucker's getting smoked. Because I don't care what size it is. If I see a bear that's a legal bear, it's going down.
And that's what we're doing in Missouri right now. That's one thing I'm hoping eventually we'll, as hunters, will not. Right now, your bear is perfect bear. I mean, she's older. She probably wouldn't made another one.
It's perfect.
But we're shooting 50-50 females. If we can start, you know, identifying. But I understand the opportunities is very, very small. So you see that first bear and it's legal. I don't blame you for shooting a female or a smaller bear, 150 pounds. I mean, I guess we all would love a 500 Missouri trophy record, but I mean, but it's an opportunity to go hunting to get that bear. So eventually, as population grows, hopefully we learn as bear hunters, maybe, hey, it's a female, I'm gonna let her go. You know, maybe not. Maybe you killed a couple of bears, and that's a female. I'm waiting for a bigger one. So, but that's down the road. Like I said, if I would shot that bear. If it's by itself, you know, last day, whatever day it was, I'm gonna shoot it. You know, whatever's legal opportunity, I'm gonna take it. So
yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, fellas, for coming on. Appreciate it. And
appreciate it having us.
Yeah, we'll get this episode out and hopefully we'll get some people showing up and get some memberships rolling. So it should be a good time.
Awesome.
Thank you for your help.
All right.